Welcome to Conversations Here and Now. My name is Naresh. It's Wednesday, August the 6th. And last week, I spoke about the fact that a lot of companies now, all the major big companies, banks, etc., are telling their employees that they have to come back to work full time, return to office, starting in either September or in the new year, in January. And most of these companies are making it so you have to come back to work 5 days a week. So a lot of people are obviously somewhat concerned about this. This work from home started after COVID. A lot of people started working at that time if they were 21, 22, and that's all they've known is to work from home. These people, and of course other people as well who have worked in an office before. But everybody, it's been 5 years now, and especially the people who've never actually worked in an office before are somewhat worried now about returning to work in the office again. And a lot of them are saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because these companies basically are saying, too bad, so sad. You have to come back to office full time. And again, most times 5 days a week, or go find yourself another job. So for a lot of people, and the job market today is not necessarily the best. So for a lot of people, they have no choice but to return back to work. And it can be a long commute, drive, it's easy when you work from home. You get up, make your coffee, log onto your computer, and there you go, ready to go. No traveling time, no commute, headache, all that is gone. If you've got kids, they can be looked after a lot easier when you work from home than when you have to return back to office, because now you've got to wake up extra early, etc., to look after kids, look after yourself before you go traveling and commuting. So I looked at that last week, and I spoke about the companies that are doing it. Today, I'm going to just talk about what people can actually do in order to make it a little bit easier on themselves, because a lot of people, again, they've never worked from office. They've always known to work from home because they started working 5 years ago at the age of 22, 23, whatever, right? So, and a lot of people who have worked from office before, they're not used to it anymore. And going back from working full-time at home to going back to office full-time can be a bit of a shock, right? So returning to the office after working from home can be especially challenging for people with kids and families. So there are several ways to ease the transition and make it a little bit more manageable, because you can't just up and quit your job and look for another one. Yes, you can keep looking for one that will allow, some companies do allow still to work from home, full-time even, or as a hybrid. So you can look for those, but you can't just up and quit unless most people's financial situation doesn't allow you to just up and quit and then look for another job. That could take months, right? So for every day, what can you do as a person, as a family, even as a person just by yourself, or if you have a full family, your partner, kids, etc. So the first thing is to plan and prepare ahead. Planning is always the most important thing for anything in life, whether it's your finances, your health, and your work. Now, if you have to go back to work, you gotta definitely plan. So I would sit down and reestablish your routines. You have to adjust your wake-up time. If you have kids have to be dropped off or taken to the bus. You have to meal prepare your meals the night before or on the weekend before, have everything packaged and ready to go, right? So everything becomes planning. So you have to have, in that in itself, you have to have a wake-up time. You have to wake up at a consistent time to allow for this transition, okay? If you've got kids, then you got to get the kids ready, right? Everybody has to have their breakfast, and then after that, after the kids have gone to school, whoever's dropped them off or their bus or whatever, then you have to plan for your commute, right? Plan your commute, check traffic, gather any necessary items before leaving for work. And having I mean, I can just speak for myself, that I'm retired now, but when I was working, I would have everything ready the night before, everything put out and ready the night before. So including your lunches, etc. So in the morning, you just grab and go, right? Or you can have a quick breakfast, toast, whatever, and then go, right? So if you have kids, then you're gonna have to practice that as well, a little bit of extra time for that. So you gotta plan that in the morning. Otherwise it becomes a complete mess. So maybe, and before you go back to work, the company gives you 3-4 weeks now, or 3-4 months, practice some dry runs on how you're gonna do it, right? Test your morning routine and commute. Actually go and commute to see what it's like if you've never done it. Do you have to take a bus? Do you have to take the subway? Do you have to take the GO train? Find out the schedules. Practice and have everything ready. Write it down. Have everything ready. Now, the second thing you can do is organize your family logistics. Childcare backup. Arrange flexible childcare or after-school programs in case you get delayed. That always happens if you're traveling to, whether you're taking the GO train or you're taking the subway or you're driving yourself. Sometimes delays happen. Highway sometimes gets totally backed up. Trains get backed up. Everything can get backed up. It's a lucky day, in fact, when everything comes through smoothly. It is. So, you have to have all backups ready for everything. Shared responsibilities. Coordinate with your partner or other family members to divide school runs, errands, and evening routines, right? So basically, you have to have backup for everything. You have to ask your family, other family members, or people in the area. Your brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever can help out. Pick up the kids from the school bus after work, after their school finishes, right? Because you may not be able to do it. Unless you want to pay for kids to stay behind in school. Sometimes that's hard to get the kids into those programs. Everything is full. So if you have people you can rely on for that, that makes a big difference. Prepare for all that ahead of time. Okay? So negotiate your flexibility. So you can still go to your boss, manager, and say, request a few work from home days or staggered start and end times to reduce some stress on you. The way it's sounding, I've been reading up on it, most companies are saying, no, you have to come back to work full time now. Even the people who already are on hybrid schedules, they want them to come to work 5 days a week, right? You may be able to negotiate some staggered, flex time. You can start an hour later, stay an hour later, that kind of thing. You may be able to negotiate that with your manager, but that's, again, that is up to your manager and your company policy, right? So some companies allow employees to work around a fixed window, making it easier for families, right? To make very few, but some do. Again, you got to talk to your management on it. But you got to try, you got to negotiate, you got to try, right? So create a support system for yourself. Carpool or rideshare with coworkers or neighbors to cut down on commute stress. That is possible. Now you have HOV lanes as well on the highway, so you can share gas costs if you have people living in the area with you who are going to the same workplace, right? Or the least of it, don't drive to Toronto if you can take the GO train. Park your car, take the GO train in if that's possible for you, if that works for you. If you work near the downtown area, right? So do that. Family and friends network. Stay connected with people who can help in a pinch with pickups, drop-offs, or sick days, right? So, if your kids are sick and they can't go to school, you got to go to work. It's hard to just call the boss. Kids get sick a lot, when they pick up infections. You can't be calling in sick every 2 weeks, one day, and your workplace isn't going to be too happy with that. And once in a while is fine. So you got to have people you can rely on. You got to make that list of people you can rely on for backup, right? Create a support system. Next, communicate openly with your employer. Be upfront about family responsibilities. Most managers are more accommodating when they know the challenges because they have kids themselves too, so they do understand Of course, you get managers that don't care because they're just towing the company line. They'll just say, no, sorry, figure it out on your own, right? And then you're left on your own. And in the meantime, you're probably looking for another job, etc. But in the meantime, that's where your backup support comes in at home. Parents, your parents, your parents, aunts, uncles, friends, whoever can help out. Make a network. With your kids, talk to them about the new routine so they understand why things are changing and what to expect. Everybody's been doing this for 5 years, and if you've been strictly working from home, then kids are going to, you have to explain it to them if you have smaller kids. Actually, in fact, as long as you have kids from newborns to all the way to grade 12, 18-year-olds, 17, 18-year-olds, it's going to be a big adjustment. Kids still need to be possibly dropped off to high school. They may walk to high school or middle school, but they may need to be dropped off depending on how far it is, etc. So everything has to be, you got to speak to them, explain it to them, and everything has to be worked out. And of course, you can use technology to stay connected. Video check-ins. Take a few minutes during your break or lunch to call home if the kids are home. Of course, you can text your kids to make sure everything is okay. Kids are not supposed to use phones in classrooms. Nowadays, I think the policies are pretty strict, but they can message you. You can message them in between breaks, right? When the kids are on their break. They can probably go to their locker, get their phone, answer you, make sure everything's okay at school, because that's a big worry now, right? Before you were at home, you were able to control everything. Now that's one thing that you're always going to have to worry about, especially if you're working and live in like Mississauga or Oakville or something, and then you're working in Toronto or York. So that's far away from your kids, far away from your home, right? So, and of course, you know what, in this whole thing, what you have to do is prioritize self-care. That's most important, because if you don't prioritize self-care, that's with any job. You can't do your job properly. You're going to burn out, right? So to avoid burnouts, don't try to make up for lost time at work or at home. Set boundaries and respect those boundaries, right? Take short breaks. Even 5 to 10 minutes can help mentally reset between work and family duties. Wherever you can take 10 minutes, just take the break. Calm down, put everything out of your mind, do some deep breathing, go for a little walk, step outside. If you're at work, just take the elevator down or step outside or whatever, 10, 15, and go stand outside the building, right? Bit of a change, right? If your building has a nice area where you can go sit with plants, etc., a lot of new buildings do, go sit there. Lunchtime, do something completely different, right? A lot of people just eat lunch at their desk and keep working. That's, if you can, get away from that. Lunchtime is your lunchtime. You're allowed to take a break and go downstairs, go out, go for a walk, go sit somewhere else in the building where it's a nicer area. Most buildings have some place you can go sit quietly. Maybe, you need that break, right? So, there's other things you can do during the day. Again, going over it, have a morning routine. You gotta have all this planned out. If you have a couple of kids, even if you have one, even if you don't have kids, you're still gonna have to have a routine. You have to have a morning routine. You have to have, after the kids are home from school, they got to do their homework. They have to have their snack time. They have to have some activities. You maybe having to need them to be driven to soccer, skating, this, that. All that now has to come into play, right? Because you're traveling, you may not be able to do it. You have to rely on parents, grandparents, or whatever, right? When you get home, you have to prepare dinner. When you're working from home, a lot of people can just run to the kitchen and start something and then just keep working and prepare dinner while they're working. Not going to happen anymore, right? So you have to do that. Then you have to have your evening routine. So, eat dinner together with your family if possible, your kids, you catch up with each other, you talk to kids, talk to your partner, catch up with each other at this time of the day. You have to have a bedtime routine, establish a calming bedtime routine, including things like bath time, reading, or storytelling with your kids. You have to have that, right? Bedtime, stick to a consistent bedtime. Now that everybody has to wake up, well, especially you, maybe the kids' bedtime is still the same, but You have to wake up earlier. They may have to wake up earlier too in order to get ready to leave, right? Communicate. Communicate your work schedule and needs to your kids so they understand when you're available and when you're not. If the kids are older, grade 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they'll understand. Maybe younger, talk to them, okay? Support system, identify, again, this is very important. You have to have that, a support system. Family member, babysitter, all the family members and friends. Have their phone numbers down, let them know you may call on them, and hopefully they won't mind an emergency. Flexibility, be flexible and adopt your routine as needed to accommodate changing circumstances. And quality time is very important. Quality time. Make time for quality activities with your kids, such as playing games, going on outings, or having family movie nights. There's things you can do to make it less stressful on yourself. You need that break, so otherwise you burn out. By establishing a full routine with your partner and your kids, you can reduce stress, right? Improve productivity at home and at work, because you have this backup set up and you have this routine set up, and your kids are taken care of, then you can a lot less stress. All right. Enhance family time. A routine can help you prioritize quality time with your kids, strengthening your relationship and creating lasting memories. Nowadays, everybody has a phone that takes really good photos, right? So all the important times and activities take photos, so you don't forget, right? So with proper planning, you can handle it. And if you can do it, you may stay in the same job. And if you're finding it really difficult, then you got to look for a company that will let you do it hybrid, maybe, 2 days into work, 3 days from home, or whatever it may be, right? So if you have to do that, then you have to do that. But in the meantime, you have to go back to work, right? Make sure your car is tuned up, right? That kind of thing. Find out, get how to pay for GO trains, etc. Have everything set up ahead of time, right? Plan, write it all out. That will make your life easier. So that's the routine, that things you can do in order to make your life a little bit easier to go back to work. Now, the other thing people are really worried about is how they're going to handle being back at work 5 days a week. Okay, so returning to the office after working from home can make social and professional interactions feel unfamiliar or even awkward at first. So what are the things you can do to make that a little bit easier, right? So you have to rebuild in-person rapport, reconnect gradually, take time to say hello, check with coworkers, and rebuild those casual relationships. Yes, you've known everybody over Zoom. You may have gotten together with them occasionally, but now you're going to be seeing them 5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day, and you have to work with them. So you have to build that rapport, right? Start small. A quick coffee chat or shared lunch can go a long way towards restoring comfort and trust, right? So all that has to be rebuilt again. You don't have to worry about that when you're working from home. You just have to worry about interacting for what you need to interact, and that's it. But now it's more than that, right? So communicate clearly. Next one is communicate clearly and respectfully. Respect, right? Be transparent. Let colleagues know if you're still adjusting. Everybody's going to be adjusting in there if they're all coming back, right? It helps set realistic expectations. So you have to adjust also to the fact going back to work, everybody else is going back to work. Everybody's in the same boat. So everybody has to be respectful of each other, right? So everybody has to understand that everybody's under stress, right? So clarify work preferences. If you prefer quiet work time or scheduled meetings, politely communicate those boundaries early on with your manager, with your coworkers, etc. If you are the manager, then with your people who are working on your staff, let them know. So communication and planning is utmost importance. Practice active listening. In-person conversations require a bit more attention than Zoom calls. Watch for tone, body language, social cues, right? Zoom calls, you don't have to worry about any of those really, right? That's important. And a lot of times you haven't, again, I'm saying it again, a lot of people have not even worked in an office before. If you started working at 5 years ago at 22 or 23 and you were working from home, so this is the first time going back to office, right? Acknowledge others' ideas and contributions to rebuild a sense of collaboration. Okay, so that goes a long way, acknowledging people, their good ideas. Okay, speaking to them, about all ideas and see how things can work out, right? So you have to practice active listening. So stay patient with differences. People have had different pandemic experiences and may return to work with new routines, expectations, or sensitivities. So, be understanding. If someone is more cautious, distracted, or not yet back to normal, it's going to take time. I would say it's probably going to take up to 3 to 6 months for everybody to gel back together and start working together as a unit, right? Because there's going to be problems at first. You even have to set up your desk, everything, routines, desk, everything, what's on your desk, what's not on your desk, what's allowed, can't listen to music anymore, etc., things like that, right? So everything has to be reset again. So what happens is you have to relearn office norms, adopt to team dynamics. Things may have changed while you were remote. Try to observe the current culture and adjust accordingly. Things change in 5 years. The staff may have a lot of young people. If you're in your 30s, and you may see you have to work with people in their early 20s. They're from a different generation, right? So they have a different way of doing things. So you have to respect that, right? You have to work with them. Blend new habits. You may have developed solo working styles at home. Bring the best of that into collaborative settings, but stay flexible. You have to be flexible, because if everybody was inflexible, you'd have constant clashes and it wouldn't work, right? So you have to be flexible. You have to listen to people. You have to pay attention to people, right? And they have to do the same thing for you as well. And the most important thing, collaborate, but don't compete. After long periods of working independently, it's easy to default to solo mode. Instead, offer help. Share progress openly. That's a good one. Share progress openly. Ask for feedback and input, right? So again, this is coming down to working with people, communicating with people, listening to people, right? So asking for feedback and input, that's used to be like that when you were always working in an office. That may not have happened in the last 5 years when you were working from home, right? So use structure to ease back in. Schedule check-ins with people, team syncs, and one-on-ones to keep communication flowing. Schedule check-ins with your manager. How is everything going? Sync properly with your team if you're working in a team, right? If you're working as a team, or you may be on your own solo as a customer service, but you still have to keep checking with your manager and keep communication flowing. Keep to-do lists and shared task boards visible so others see your workload and you see theirs. A lot of places have that, task board. A lot of places don't, but do what you can to let people know what your responsibilities are, what you're doing, okay? Celebrate small wins together. Whether it's completing a project or surviving a tough day, acknowledge team successes, strength bonds, and morale. So if somebody else does something really, really good, yes, congratulate them. If the whole team does something really good, well, yeah, celebrate together, right? So you have to do these things. You can't just go to work, be, really sour and upset that you have to come back to work. There's no choice unless you can find another job, unless you can find another place to work at. Then until then, you have to do it. What if you can't, right? The economy isn't necessarily that great, that jobs are just sitting open. Thousands of people are, other than yourself, may be thinking, I'm looking for a job too. So everybody's looking for jobs that they can work from home because they can save money and time, etc., and headaches and stress, right? So not too many people may want to go back, and maybe the young people like going back home. Maybe young people like going back to work, but most people with kids, etc., they like to work from home, right? So So, if you feel overwhelmed, remember that most of your coworkers are also adjusting. A little empathy towards yourself and others makes the transition much smoother, right? So, basically what it comes down to is planning everything at home. You don't want to start your day, right? Totally stressed out. So when you get to work, you're already stressed out completely, and it gets taken out on other people at times, and other people may do that, right? So if you plan your day properly every morning, so you get out on time, get the kids off to school on time, get your lunches prepared, whatever, then if you plan everything the night before, that morning becomes really, really much easier and smoother and calmer, right? So you can focus when you get into work, right? So if you don't plan, then if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. That's absolutely 100% true. Okay, so you're gonna have to plan with your partner or yourself. If you're just by yourself, it's obviously, if you're a single person, it's a lot easier, right? Whereas if you have a full family, then you're gonna have to. But even as a single person, you're gonna have to plan, right? But it's a lot easier than when you have a full family of 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids. Who knows, right? So all of that has to be looked after, right? So you can have a successful work career, right? So, okay, so that's about it. Most companies, again, are dead set for this. They want people to come back, and that's it. They're using big terms like this is our culture, this is our company culture, this is our company policies, this is the way we're going to do things. And if you don't like it, then go hit the highway, basically. A lot of them are not willing to really accommodate anymore. They say they have accommodated for 5 years and they're not willing to do it anymore. My last video covered the entire reasons for why they should accommodate. So if you want to see that, please go back and see that video, okay, in my videos. I'm not going to go over it here, but it's in everybody's interest if a person the whole company can work from home compared to coming in, but I covered that in a previous video. So anyway, I hope you like what I've provided today to help you out in your transition from work from home to returning to office. If you have any comments, please leave it in the comments. I would really appreciate that if you liked it. If you want to add to that what I put, please put it in your comments. Please like. It doesn't cost you anything. Like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. It doesn't cost you anything and helps me out with the algorithms. Okay, thank you very much, and see you next time.